welcome everyone to our Agritech event that is going to be super interesting because of the Internet of Things. We are in a blockchain world that is evolving so fast, and we decided that we wanted to have this special event to speak about what the technology is and where it's going. And we have some very special guest speakers on today. Those that are on all are experts within the field in a variety of ways. And for those that don't know me, my name is Jackie Cooper. I'm actually the co-chair of the Blockchain Legal Institute, as well as one of the founders of the Maryland Blockchain Association. And I have with me today my co-founder, Matt Rogers, and I'll let him introduce himself, and then we're going to be introducing the various speakers.
Yeah, so this is a timely event. I just wanted to mention, it was only a few months ago that, there was unexplained drones over New Jersey. And if you've been to a sporting event these days, you see sort of the electronics and how they're everywhere. And I know this isn't necessarily specifically a drone event, but I do feel like at the beginning of 2025 here, this is a timely event, so we're happy to host it. And anyway, Matt Rogers, happy to be a part of this. Always fun to work with Jackie on the work that we do. I'm representing here with my background, the Digital Asset Regulatory Authority, which is kind of a startup that we're incubating. And if anyone wants to sort of look into compliance related to IoT, compliance related to agriculture, anyway, there's a variety of things in the clients in the compliance space. But happy to be here and let's get it rolling.
So today we have actually a really special individual, Jillian Heishaw, who has been within the farming community, the legal community, and the nonprofit community for a variety of years. So I'm going to ask Jillian to kind of introduce what her program is, and then we're going to be bouncing it over to a few of our other speakers. Jillian, why don't you go ahead and share?
Hello, thank you so much for having me, and thank you, attendees and speakers. We are happy to be one of the sponsors of this event tonight. My name is Jillian Heishaw. I'm an attorney and founder of Family Agriculture Resource Management Services. I have a legal master's in agricultural law, and I've been practicing in the area for over 20 years. And I have worked for local, state, and federal conservation and USDA departments. And for the past 12 years, I have ran Farms, is the acronym, and we're a nonprofit. We've provided services to farmers in Calcutta, India, to also farmers in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, Haiti, Trinidad, and Barbados. And then, of course, the United States, we have a legal program that we're phasing out. We saved about 15 million in farmland assets across the country. And then we also have a food bank program where we purchase produce from the farmers and then it's donated. So far, we've donated a little under 3 million pounds over the past 12 years in 5 different countries. And then we also have a farmers emergency fund where we provide natural disaster relief to the farmers and ranchers, particularly in the US. So thank you again for everyone coming out and for the Blockchain Legal Institute for allowing us to sponsor and to host this event because it's desperately needed.
We appreciate you totally. The next person I'm going to introduce actually is Mike Wise. And Mike and I met at the Government Blockchain Association event and a variety of other events in the blockchain space. And Mike has been involved in this area for many years. He's been involved from the Boston side now all the way to Ohio. And he's actually creating a sandbox in the Ohio area that will be involved with IoT. And I'm going to let him introduce himself because he is a strong proponent of individuals who are in business to look at this innovative tech.
I'm so excited. Thank you, Jackie, so much for organizing this. It's been a real journey. We've been working on this for several months, and it's actually Alex Mann who ignited the spark in me to start pursuing IoT right when I was in transition from Boston to Cleveland. So I worked in the Boston marketplace with the Boston Blockchain Association, helping collaborate and build that community up. And we just decided to move to Cleveland and or back to Cleveland. And along the way, I met Alex Mann, and he showed me something that just opened my eyes to IoT. And I really believe that with its deep history in manufacturing, Northeast Ohio, the Midwest, the greater Midwest can become a global hub for IoT manufacturing. So creating millions of devices across industries. And here we have one. The thing I really like about this one and Alex's story is the integration with deep cryptography blockchain. And I can't wait to bring that out today. So thank you so much for having me, Jackie. Really appreciate all your work.
Thank you. I appreciate you as well. I know that you've been educating me on a lot of things that I had no clue about. And in this space, the technology is changing so fast, you need multiple partners to keep up with it. So besides the Maryland Blockchain Association, we have the Virginia Blockchain Association here, and we are part of a U.S. blockchain coalition, which has 50 associations. And it's very exciting that every state now is represented. So Greg, I'm going to have you unmute so that way you can explain a little bit more. You have been in this space and you have been very proactive on the legislative side, as well as also on the education side. And I've always been using you as a mentor and an educator. So I really appreciate you being on here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate it. Sorry, I'm not in person, but we are in the middle of session, so we have a lot of side events going on. So if you hear a little bit of background, apologize for that. But just first, let me say thank you to you and Mike and Alex and everyone on this call for taking the leadership. It really, things grow when you focus on them, and this is exactly how our industry continues to evolve and grow and emerge. I'm the executive director and founder of the Virginia Blockchain Council. We're a 501c6 community organization really focused on advocacy, community building, and education, as Jackie has mentioned. I would say our superpower is probably the community piece, but we do, while we're in session, find bills like we have this session, which we have a DAO bill, which we're super excited about, and we continue to advocate and legislate on that. So I would be remiss, though. I really just want to kick this over to Alex because you guys are in for a treat. I met Alex probably about a year ago. We met as we continued to cross paths down at the State House here in Virginia. The more that I got to know Alex, it became very apparent that he was the secret sauce that we needed from an education perspective. He was able to help our legislators take blockchain, which always seemed very kind of like deer in the headlights for them because they just thought it was this name that was super confusing, and tie it to a use case. And in this particular instance, IoT. So he really opened the eyes and has helped us move legislation forward, continues to help us educate. And I really can't edify him enough. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Alex.
Sounds good.
Greg, thank you for that glowing intro. Mike, Jackie, Clark, and everyone else, thank you so much for being here. Jillian for sponsoring. My name is Alexander Mann. I have been in the agricultural tech space for about 5 years now. Started my own company about 3 years ago called Smart Grow Agritech. I'm based out of the Shenandoah Valley, just outside of JMU campus. It's a beautiful area in Western Virginia, lots of farmland, lots of livestock. And as Greg said, more recently, I got connected in the legislature space and the education space, and have really been using these stories about how the technology can impact individuals and businesses, taking a little bit of the focus or spotlight off of the cryptocurrency and the speculative side of things, although I think that blockchain has immense potential in the financial sector. But I get excited about, seeing this type of technology deployed in industries and in small businesses and lifting people up. So I'm really thankful to be here talking about it today and participating in the panel. More recently, I got connected with Clark Colson. He is a multi-generational farmer located in Western Canada, and he is a wealth of knowledge both in cultivation and in the insurance industry. He has lots of experience. He's a successful entrepreneur himself, and I would consider him an expert across all those domains. So I'll kick it over to him to let him do his intro. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Alex. I'm from Saskatchewan, Canada, and I've got a very diverse background in agriculture and building insurance products, crop insurance products, and using technology to do that. I'm pretty excited about what we're working on. So, do you want any more than that, or is that good?
No, that's perfect. We're going to have Mike ask the first question to kind of get the ball rolling in terms of the conversation. So, Mike, go ahead.
So, Alex, what is the problem Agritech is solving?
Well, I think one of the most upfront problems is the lack of technology adoption when it comes to the agricultural sector, and that's just across all outdoor farming and production agriculture. There's a lot of different information out there, and in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was a lot of information put out that you needed to buy GMO seeds or special type of things, and you needed to buy synthetic fertilizers and to be successful. But we found that that's actually not the case, and it's not a long-term sustainable way to run farms. And so looking at ways that we can use data, facts and figures, information, knowledge, and combine it with these novel technologies that we're seeing come onto the market, such as blockchain and IoT and AI. I think that that's kind of the magic recipe, is putting those three things together, because you get the transparency and immutability from blockchain, you get the remote sensing capabilities with IoT, and then AI can take that information and consolidate it and really help give you a picture and some key takeaways from this massive data.
And why? Great. Yes. And we'll drill down into that. Why have you set your sights on agriculture? Do you have farming background, or, what's the deal?
So I grew up in rural Fauquier County in central Western Virginia. And it is the last kind of agricultural preserve county, butting up against Prince William and some of the more developed counties. And so growing up there, I had a lot of friends, families that were farmers or they grew livestock, and getting to understand their operations, their struggles, the challenges that they faced as a family farm or family business was really intimate. And then taking that and fast forwarding years to more recently, learning about how less than 2% of American population are producers. The rest of us, the 98%, consume. And if you look at outcomes, I really think that that tilt in our supply chain and in our domestic food supply chain, creates a lot of risks, a lot of instability, and also negative health outcomes. The food is more commercialized, commodified, and there's less of that personal touch that you can really only get from a small farmer operation. So those are the things that kind of inspired me. And then seeing an opportunity, seeing how powerful these technologies were, and looking at how can we educate the farmers, the policymakers, and really bring these solutions to the farmers in a way that meets their needs. Right? We don't want to come in and flip the table over and tell farmers who have been farming their whole lives or multi generations, and telling them how they need to do what they do best. Rather, I propose that we look for opportunities to enhance what they're already doing or give them more insight in some of their blind spots.
Clark, you have been in the farming arena your whole life, multi-generational. What would you add to Alex's comments in the category of farms and agriculture and current state versus future state?
Oh, I mean, a lot of some of the farms that I deal with are probably average 15 to 20,000 acres, quite a few of them. They're large businesses, and they have to deal with now a lot of data, agronomy data, financial data, everything. And they don't have a team really, to interpret that. They might have some agronomists on their team, but they don't have like a, normal $10 million revenue business. You'd have a CEO and a CFO and, all those people helping you. They don't really have that. Like they're a large corporation, and, they've got all the weather station data. They've got all their, like I say, financial data, their agronomy, their marketing, all the different things. So it's just trying to put it into a place where it's usable for them, for, financial institutions, to be able to evaluate the cash flow risk, or insurance, for example, what yield for cash flow risk, what yield would have been there if a specific farmer plants on a specific field or quarter section and plants a specific type of crop out of their past history, what would grow there under normal conditions? And then when those conditions change, how much was lost? And, how do you measure that? So, traditionally we've used crop adjusters and agronomists and things, but, using random sampling. But on large acres like this, it's very difficult to get a representative sample. So, just trying to use tech. There's all the data is there, but it's more how do you interpret it all? Bringing in all the different things. So, just trying to assist farms to be able to utilize all the data that they have now and all the expertise to actually put it into decisions. To have actually, things that they can execute like right at this moment. And that can also be, maybe it's just making crop adjusting more accurate by giving some of these tools to a crop adjuster or to an insurer or to the farmer themselves, and it just or the bank or whoever, just to be able to kind of get everybody on the same page, make things more efficient and effective, measured properly. When you're measuring risk, it's very important to have it, agreed on what you're measuring.
So one of the things that I was very excited about in learning about what Alex is doing was the integration of the technology, from artificial intelligence to blockchain, actually Bitcoin, and then the weather sensors and the IoT side. So to me, it wasn't separate pieces. Everything is integrated. Why don't you go ahead and share a little bit more about what you did, what you're doing, and let's take a dive into that.
Yeah, so it started off with me finding this weather station called
There it
Weatherflow.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the Weatherflow Tempest weather station, and it is a consumer grade product. They do make a commercial grade called Tempest One. It's a couple $100 more, has a little bit more robust sensor set inside of it. But the main point is they have wireless and cellular versions. You can put these out in the field, and it gives you, over a dozen different climate readings, the light sensor on top, rain sensor, wind sensor between this gap right here, temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, and lightning on top of some others. And so it's a really great baseline. And we did a case study this past year on one of the vineyards that I had it installed on, where it's not a large operation. It's about a 10-acre vineyard called Bricks and Columns in the Shenandoah Valley. And as the Shenandoah Valley, it's very rolling hills. There's a lot of microclimates because of the variations in terrain. And coming into early spring, you have what's called bud break, when the vines wake up and the first little shoots start to pop out. And there's a very critical window where, when the buds first come out, that they're very sensitive to cold. They have a very low frost tolerance. And so it's very risky time during that period, and the farmers and business owners need to rely and trust their local forecast to make informed decisions, whether they're renting and running wind machines or doing burn barrels or spraying liquid potassium. There are mitigation options, but when you know better, you grow better. And so what we found was that we installed a station at the lowest point and a station at the highest point, and we were able to find the trends and identify the microclimate. And there was actually a 6.5 degree difference between what the zip code temperature was saying versus what we actually recorded for the low that night. And they were able to make a more informed decision to get out on their tractor and start spraying liquid potassium, starting at their lowest terrain and working their way up. And they had less than a 2% loss on their crop because of that, where some of their neighbors had upwards of 20, 30, 40% frost damage. So that's just one tangible example of how the technology can be used. And then from there, I don't want to go too deep in the weeds just for time, but we are working with the manufacturer to broadcast or carbon copy a hash, a representative fingerprint of the actual data that the station is sampling to a public blockchain. We're posting that to the Bitcoin SV blockchain right now for benchmark testing to get an idea of feasibility, technical protocol design, and the just how exactly we operate that on the back end. And then once that data is stored, we can have a AI agent, if you will, or overlay network that's able to query, and I can select a specific weather station and then ask a text to data, essentially, tell me how the local station is different from my zip code, and it can check the local
That's
database,
through,
it can check the zip code and
Alex,
answer those
that's
questions.
through your AI dashboards that you've engineered, right?
Yes.
Excellent.
So,
and while
ahead.
we're sorry, Jackie, we were probably going to ask the same question. Why Bitcoin SV? Why did you choose? There's 1,000 blockchains out there. Why that one?
To put it simply, and there's this is another rabbit hole that I go to, and I'd be happy to do so on a different call. But so the transaction throughput and the transaction fees. So how many transactions can you post per second? Because the manufacturer that I'm working with, Tempest, they have 85,000 of these stations set up around North America, Canada, Mexico, and EU and UK. And looking at, hey, if we were to scale up to a global network of IoT devices, or say that a major company like Amazon and their global supply chain wanted to collect metrics, is your Web3 infrastructure capable of processing, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of transactions per second as they're flowing in? There are workarounds and layer twos and side chaining, et cetera. I was really interested and got into blockchain through reading the 2008 Satoshi Nakamoto white paper, who is still unknown who that is. But the concept of a Bitcoin proof of work network that could have a scaling block size to meet the demands of larger volumes of transactions, and how that keeps the transaction fees low and distributes risk across the network. So again, without doing a full doctorate level deep dive,
That's good.
that's the reason.
I actually have a follow-up question on that because I was talking to someone today about Bitcoin and about the blockchain and about our event tonight. So he asked, is it the timestamp on the blockchain that you're using where the information is actually stored off chain, or are you actually inscribing it? And for those that might not be familiar with what that means, it's actually, putting it on the chain. So how are you collecting that information? Because that was the other question that is fascinating to me as we're creating multiple uses of the blockchain and across career and areas. So how are you doing that?
Yeah, so per device, it's about there's to answer your question, we're doing both during as part of our benchmark testing.
Okay.
So on one hand, we're looking at just the representative hash, which
Okay.
is a very lightweight data package. It's just the SHA-256 algorithm, 128 bits. with some headers for the station ID, the geographic location, the timestamp, things of that nature. On the other side, we're also exploring, and granted, it is a larger data packet size, but we're able to do some more interesting things with it on the layer one, where we're actually taking the comma separated value string. We simplify the output from the station into just simple number, comma, number, comma, number, comma, where every number is a specific sensor reading, and then it's separated by commas, and then we're encrypting that and then posting that encrypted weather data on the BSV blockchain, where it can be decrypted on the layer one. And one interesting use case could be like smart contracts executing using on-chain data. So if you have a smart contract that's on the layer one program, say for crop insurance, and there's specific thresholds that are outlined as variables in the code of the smart contract, you could link the stations that the farmer has on their field that policy is governing as inputs. And because both are on layer one, the numbers would essentially just pass through. And as long as thresholds aren't crossed, then the smart contract won't execute. If the thresholds do get crossed, though, you can set up if-then statements in the smart contract to schedule an appointment for an adjuster to come out, or to put a bounty for a drone job and say, hey, we had a potential threshold crossage here. We need someone to, with a drone to come out. It's $125 for the flight, and they can, do the work and then send the deliverable to the insurance company. We're really trying to think about ways that we can optimize the whole process, both for the farmers and the insurers, lower risk, improve outcomes, and have it be to the benefit of all.
It's amazing the automation that you're integrating, in terms of both the data collection and then the possibility of sharing that over to the insurance side. Clark, you're involved in the insurance. How receptive are the insurance companies actually to the integration of this technology, and then using the information from that for the claims side?
Well, I think they're very, very receptive. I think it's harder from a large organization to be innovative, though. So I think that they're looking for, others to maybe come alongside and help. And, so the farmers that I work with in Canada, they're very innovative. They're trying to build something for future generations. The insurance companies that we deal with are very similar. They're very open to innovation, and they'd like to innovate. And when you partner those two things together, you're just solving everyone's problem, making them more efficient and making claims, being able to rate risk more effectively. So it leads to a benefit for the people paying the rate or the people paying the claim. So yeah, I think it's a really opportune time, actually.
Do you think that the insurance is actually going to go down as a result of that?
Well, for certain people or organizations, for others it may go up, because especially in things like crop adjusting a lot of it's not just weather. It's not just weather. It's not just topography, right? And it's not just historical yields or historical finances to determine what happens to a crop. So it's also management practice. So just like you see in the vineyard, if one neighbor doesn't go out and spray potassium and the other neighbor doesn't, and that's an insured loss, you got one person with a 40% loss and the other person with no loss. So yeah, it's I think it'll take, I'm not trying to say it's fraud, but let's say some of the waste in the insurance industry and the financial industry, I think that we can help that a lot, which helps everybody.
It does help everyone. Alex, in terms of going to other farms and introducing and educating them on how to integrate this, what do you see as the future use and, adoption?
Yeah, there have always been challenges about just rolling up and being a sales like a tech salesperson for farmers. A lot of them are say set in their ways, or they aren't, they don't rely on technology heavily. They have a SOP that has been tried and true and it works, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of mentality. And I definitely respect that. And so looking for opportunities to work with the farmers who are receptive and generate like actual results that we can speak to with numbers and facts and figures. And really it's about outcomes, right? So if we can work with a couple farms and show, a tangible change in outcomes that, result in dollars and cents or a better product, then, we want to kind of lead by example and let the results speak for themselves and not try and force it down anyone's throat. Um, and the cool thing about AI is that it kind of helps with that in some instances. So I've had a couple farmers that, I'm a data nerd. Like I love looking at charts and graphs and analytics and things like that and getting into the weeds, looking for trends. But I only had to try to pitch that or show that to a farmer and get them to use it 2 or 3 times to realize, okay, like this isn't, it's trying to get a horse to drink out of a trough that they don't want to drink out of. How can I meet them where they are? And to that end, I was able to take my busy dashboards because it's the same underlying data that we're getting, comma separated value JSONs that are populating and powering these dashboards. I was like, well, what if I can use Gen AI and these large language models, and I can just simply prompt the model to generate certain reports or generate a equivalent of this really busy dashboard that I know how to read, but a farmer may not, and generate simplified text-based reports. And I found that to be very, very receptive and being able to bridge some of those tech divides by being able to transform data in ways that are more palatable for different demographics.
So I'm going to ask Jillian to unmute. I'm going to ask her a quick question since you've been in the farm industry and community for many years. Have you seen anything like this, being used in your areas with the farms that you've been supporting in terms of the AI, IoT, the weather sensors? I mean, when I learned what Alex and Clark were doing, to me, that was a new innovation. Have you been exposed to that?
No, I haven't. And it is amazing. But one thing that I will agree with Alex is that farmers are set in their ways. And so the average age of the farmer, according to the 2022 USDA census in the US in particular, is 60. I believe internationally it's around 65. And so it is an aging population. And just trying to get them not to use so much fertilizer or just even go based on the instructions on the back of the bag can be a challenge. And so a lot of the areas that I do work in are quite rural. I also have a practice in Wyoming, and so it's a lot of areas, and I'm originally from Kansas City, so it's a lot of areas, even in the Midwest, that they don't have internet. And so that is another challenge when you try to talk to, because the average age of my client is around 85. So they're a bit long in the tooth. But when you try to talk to them about even sending an email, I've finally got them on PayPal, and so trying to talk to them about the blockchain is just like, another foreign language, and it is a challenge, especially with dealing with the communities where the last I checked, it's about 25-30% of rural communities in the US do not have broadband. And so, how will you fix that when you're incorporating blockchain? And then, how will you also fix the illiteracy problem? Because a lot of farmers, they can't read and they're old.
Understood. So I know, Mike, we had talked about taking questions at the end. I see a lot of hands raised. But Alex, before we do take questions, I know that there's Starlink. There's a lot of other possible options that maybe can be partnered for innovation, and integration of your tech. What do you think is a way to kind of overcome these hurdles, because we do need to bring in the younger generation into this community. It's like any other profession. And so integrating the tech might make it more interesting for collective. But what do you think the solution is? Because we, like you said, it's an 80-20, small group of people making the food, all of us enjoying it. And we need to kind of repopulate the farm. So what's your suggestion here?
Yeah, so I'll speak on the connectivity issues or challenges first, and then touch on the second point about how do we get, the next generation of farmers inspired. So when it comes to connectivity, there's more and more innovation here in this space, similar to the innovation in AI. I'll point to Starlink and Starlink partnering with T-Mobile to offer global cellular coverage, and this is a beta program that they're rolling out this quarter in a limited fashion. But I would imagine by 2026 next year that this will be much widely more available. In addition to the cellular hybrid plans that exist out there, there's also the ability to invest in an actual Starlink unit. While a little bit more expensive, the connectivity that it offers is great, and we can cross some of the bridges. Like, for example, if we had a farm that's in the Midwest, wide open spaces, a lot of area to cover, there are a couple different like radio technologies that we can use to get to the Starlink range or within the Starlink range to then upload that or aggregate it at the farm level. So say if you had a 5,000, 10,000 acre farm in the Midwest, you would have for example, a LoRa, LoRa, long range wide area network device, which is a radio protocol that has, it's been shown multiple miles of range, especially if you have line of sight on a level ground. And so we would be able to implement these kind of mesh networks using radio technologies, and then be able to have a gateway or a hub that can aggregate them close by to our node, like the Starlink or a T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon node. So there are ways that we can work at the edge and then get it to a point where we can then push it to the internet. But even though there may be some farms that really just don't like the idea of their information going up into the cloud, and for that, it's about meeting the farmer where they are. And so another potential solution that we're seeing unfold right now is the ability for some of these AI models, these Gen AI models, that can be run on hardware at the edge. They don't need an internet connection, and the farmer could maintain hard custody of their data in perpetuity without having to outsource or send that data off somewhere else. And it's really, the thing I like about blockchain technology is the idea of empowering the individual's users' privacy and data and giving them a choice in what they share. I think there should be tangible incentives or benefits for volunteering or doing an opt-in type of thing where they do share their data. But the idea of individual sovereignty and the being able to have control over your data, which is not what Web 2 delivers to us, if we're honest. If with Web 2, if you're not paying for it, you are the product. And the idea of that is, I think we see the outcomes of that when it comes to the targeted ads and things of that nature. But the other point that I wanted to talk on was, I think it is imperative, going back to the dichotomy that we have of so many consumers to so little producers, and even looking at that as a little bit of a national security risk. And how do we engage the next generation of farmers out? And I would contend we do it through engaging in innovative technological solutions. I mean, the fact is that we have young children as young as 3, 4, or 5 that know how to play with and operate an iPad. And if we can almost make farming fun and find ways to gamify it a little bit and find ways to really have an interactive, almost competitive style with the other people that have these technologies deployed in their farm or field. And I think it also reduces the barrier to entry, right? Because you have middle school or high school kids, they're not thinking about farming as cool or engaging, or even something that can pay the bills that they could actually make some money off of and make a living off of. And I think that with these technologies, it can stabilize the market, it can improve pricing dynamics, It can improve the quality of the production and the food that we're making, and do all of that while inspiring the next generation of farmers and helping us be a stronger country and a stronger people.
I also think, thinking through the idea of what tech is doing, like with the AI, the weather sensors, and as you said, collecting the data and putting it onto blockchain, there is so much time that it takes to manage and operate a farm. But having the smart technology, like with creating smart cities, creating smart farms, also will mean that we can maybe shift where that time and the energy can go. Because if we're using a lot of the tools, then maybe it might free up some of the farmers' time. There'll always be management, but maybe it can, like you said, be a little bit different because of the integration of the tech. And then it might be multidisciplinary in terms of how you integrate different individuals to be both in the field as well as maybe on the tech side. Clark, I saw that you were unmuted. Did you want to add something from the insurance side in terms of how that might also support?
I'm sure. Actually, one of the things I wanted to comment on is just the farmers that I deal with, and I've had businesses in Australia. I've dealt some in the United States, mostly in Canada. But the businesses I deal with, a lot of people say that farmers aren't sophisticated, maybe. But when I decided to start an insurance company, a captive insurance company in Bermuda, everybody said that these guys wouldn't be able to handle it. And I had 15 of them that were no problem. So they're very sophisticated people. And not everybody, it's just like anywhere, like if you pick the ideal person, that's very interested, that's who Alex and I are working with. And then on the insurance company side, one of the things, or the banking, anything in the finance industry, what they have trouble with is they've always had trouble with getting the right data from the farmer. Can you trust it? What the farmer's telling you, a lot of farmers don't trust big organizations or people trying to get their data, or an insurer. So sometimes to be able to rate them is very difficult. But using AI and things, I've got, like, for example, the bank underwriters training course. So all the things that they manage on risk on a farm. And if you've got it so that you can put the farm's information into a way and get it to produce a report to the bank that's very understandable, or to an insurer, or, like I say, in crop adjusting, it's more, having kind of an unbiased way to go about presenting information back and forth. And I think it helps a lot with trust and things too. So yeah, the farmers and the insurers, I think, are very excited, but I know that because we're pretty involved already. So
I see some questions or comments in the chat. So I see, John, you have put, are there any Agritech solutions on the market today that integrate all three, blockchain, AI, and IoT? Alex or Clark, do you want to comment on that?
So to my knowledge, there are companies out there that have two of each, but not all three that I've seen. And again, there are a lot of different opinions around blockchain protocol and consensus mechanisms that really vary from project to project, and usually those are tailored around a single category or a niche use case or a project. Whereas I'm trying to find a blockchain that can be scalable and can service in entire sectors of a global economy or supply chain in perpetuity, and scale up to meet those needs or demands. And I try to stay blockchain agnostic in the sense of, if there's a better protocol or a better consensus mechanism, I'm definitely open to it. But in my searching and market research, I haven't really found a competitor that is using all three in a interoperable way.
Yeah, seems like an opportunity. Thanks. And it was pretty impressive, the work that you did there, Alex. And it made me think what is happening now with smart contracts could kind of move into agentic AI in a sense, and the agents doing a lot of that work as well.
Okay.
Whether you have your blockchain or not, But a really interesting mix. The opportunity is great. And little, I have a little bit of an agricultural background, even though, and Mike, thank you for inviting me. I have a software company now for snow and ice management. We're actually taking real-time data off of weather stations and taking pictures actually, but we're getting, snow depth and sensors, and that's how they're doing their billing and getting credibility with their customers because they're saying, yes, it was exactly 2.3. And your zip code issue is also an issue in the snow and ice because you can have 3 inches over here and 1 inches of snow over there. And how do you bill for that if you're getting information from the weather systems based on zip code? But I just have to mention that back in 1993, I was working with somebody out in Merced County in the wineries, and we had a sensor that detected how much moisture was in the soil. And we connected that with a software called Wonderware, and I wrote the Excel spreadsheets. And so we were turning on and off Rainbird irrigation systems based on how much weather was in the soil, and we were faxing the moisture and irrigation information for the farmers at the time. So
It's amazing how the tech
it's come a long way. And we knew we were ahead of our time, but we just moved on to other things.
And this is exactly what I have found in Northeast Ohio. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I do have one more comment about the insurance. I believe that the insurance companies would love this data because the smarter they are, the farmers, the better they are equipped, like you were saying earlier, to get out there and make sure that the plants don't freeze intelligently, right? And so therefore, they're reducing their expenses, the insurance companies, because they're smarter farmers. They don't have as many claims.
Yeah, no, very, very much so. So Thomas from New Mexico had another question. Are there are there any off-chain SaaS solutions that target the same pain point for farmers that you know of?
Are there any off-chain software solutions that target the same? Yeah, well, I mean, I would say to a degree, yes. It depends on, how literal you're comparing the two. I mean, anyone can go out and buy one of these weather stations, for example, right now, and they get a freemium dashboard that they can stream through the Tempest app for $400 roughly. And granted, it's not customizable. It's not connected to the blockchain. It doesn't interact with AI. It, doesn't generate reports, etc. So there's give and takes depending on what products are out there. This is another product called Arable, Arable, which is another device that we've been running some tests with. But so there are IoT companies out there. There are many different blockchains and there are many different types of AI, but it's finding, it's like baking a cake, right? You need just the right ingredients with just the right ratios to get the best outcomes.
So the other question was from Thomas also was how customizable is the use case and UX with the data output?
Fully customizable. And even more so with the more advanced AI gets and like DeepSeek and O3 getting ready to be released by OpenAI as well as Claude's 3.5 Opus. The coding benchmarks on these frontier models are astounding, and it makes customizing products for different use cases or customers much less overhead and much more feasible.
I will mention for everyone who's listening today and also for those that might be watching this afterwards, everyone's contact information will be in the blog below. So that way, as you have more questions, definitely you can reach out to any one of us because our whole purpose is both the service and product and research. So, as you ask these questions, we'll try to find the answers because it's just going to make our community even stronger. So Alex, in terms of the future use of where you see this going and what you're doing within your own company, where are you going with this?
Well, I think that the education is really a key part of it. It's, I'd say probably 50% of, building a business around these use cases. And to that end, I've been active with Greg Leffel in working at the Virginia State Legislature. We have a blockchain state congressional blockchain demo day on February 6th in the Senate, the state Senate. And then we're also hoping to kind of like take this demo day organization and kind of like run it in different states, as well as work with universities in different states as well to do lectures or workshops, and really just engage the community, engage legislators to ensure that use cases like the data-driven aren't lumped in with the speculative financial markets and overregulated. We definitely want to clear a pathway for innovation and implementation of these novel technologies. And then, the other side of it is like, and, instead of me going and knocking on, individual farmers' doors, just doing cold calls, I'd like to have a more community driven adoption in the sense of like a one to many. So finding an insurance company that works with many farmers under them and improving it for both the insurer and the insuree, or going to a county co-op and, working with the co-op directly, and maybe, I've been shooting some ideas around of like using the fact that we can run powerful localized AI models on relatively low cost hardware, $5,000-$6,000. You can run the entire DeepSeek model that just came out, which is a frontier model that rivals ChatGPT o1. And then the co-op could be the arbiter and the controller, because you already have a system in place where farmers are shareholders. They buy product from the co-op, and the co-op negotiates better rates for their members. And it's kind of like creates this whole ecosystem where everyone benefits. And as far as the farmers go, they can choose to opt in or opt out and get benefits from doing so. And, I think not pushing it or being pushy, but just looking at how this technology can translate into tangible outcomes, and then voicing those and spreading the good word.
So I would be really remiss if I did not say that the Maryland Blockchain Association has entered into a partnership with Capital Technology University, and we're actually creating American Blockchain Center, which is a in-person, site. And so as you're doing your quote unquote roadshow, you obviously from Virginia need to come over to Maryland. So that way, Chris Light, who I see there with eLivestock, so we can actually have at the university, a workshop and invite others from the Maryland area. I know that, UMD has an agricultural program, but there's a lot of ways to connect the community. And we're going to be hosting a lot of events. And I think that what you're doing is phenomenal. And we need to look at getting funding, not just from the private area, but also from the government side, because obviously this is an investment into, like you said, it's security. It's making sure that we have a food supply. And because if we don't have the food supply, then a lot of things go awry. Any last minute thoughts, Clark? Because we have about 8 minutes, but still, any last minute thoughts on the insurance side and what we need to do to help them kind of move it forward?
Well, I think that, what Alexander's talking about is like, it's a lot of times this is used, like I've worked for some companies that we use smart contracts with insurance contracts and things, and it speeds up things and it's predictive and things. But when you're bringing it down to the personal level, kind of decentralizing so that each individual has their own, kind of way that they can interpret their data, and that data can be produced. I think that's one of the things that will lead to more people maybe going back into farming or going on the land, or as those things happen. But it's, if the technology is only used to draw out their information and use it to make money, that's very different than them being able to utilize it to make themselves more productive, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's.
Yeah, for sure. Mike, I see you were unmuted. Did you want to add a question or two?
Yes, I'm going to an insurance conference, Clark, next week, and I'm going to be having a lot of conversations with people. And I think I have, and they're very, as you might expect at a conference, they're very short and sweet conversations. And so could you just give me your take on this solution from an insurer's perspective in one or two paragraphs? What is the value of digitally native data from an IoT device stored on a secure hopefully quantum resistant database or ledger blockchain, and accessible through AI and analytics and decision making. Can you just summarize that real quick?
Um, for an insurance, so the insurance, are you talking reinsurance conference or an insurance conference?
Insurance.
Insurance, okay. Well, I think it's, in the insurance industry or the reinsurance industry, there's been years and years and years of talk and development on this already. So, actuarial modeling, is all historical. Being able to be more predictive, I think, is very helpful. So being able to also, obviously, anything to do with their intellectual property and things, kind of the black box idea, I think is, if I'm not sure if that's the question you're asking me, but like just trying to take the data and the information and being able to rate it properly and bring in a whole bunch of components, management components, values, land, weather, all these different things, and being somewhat predictive of how does history predict the future? Because that's really what insurance is, right? It's like trying to figure out what's going to happen. So, I mean, I think it's revolutionary in the insurance industry. In Canada, I'm working with a company that's very high. It's linked to an insurer that's in agriculture that's very, very innovative already. So, so it's coming for sure.
It
Go
looks
ahead.
like we have a couple more questions.
I was just about to say, you read my mind. So I know Orlinda because of our working together today on the Maryland General Assembly, but also her background is very diverse. And she put a comment in about the wineries and vineyards. And again, it's this application of this technology is not just on the food side; it's on any application. Whether it's the wines, whether it's whatever. I mean, again, I also see we're getting close to our time. I see another question that was asked about what other spaces in the ag space that this could possibly be applied to. Alex, do you want to take that in terms of the broad application of this?
Yeah. So I'll actually answer that one. And there's another one. What's the unique selling point to the consumer, i.e., the final food consumer? So I think both those kind of play off of each other in a way. The first question about what is the unique selling point. Something that frustrates me, in the wine industry, starting in the wine industry, but I'll branch this out to every other type of ag, is that when I'm looking to purchase a bottle of wine, I go into the grocery store, you know, I turn the labels around. I'm looking for, a good bottle for a special occasion. And it's like, the same old talking points. Oh, you're going to get aromas of cherry and hints of, leather, and it was brewed, this location, but it like doesn't tell me the like actual vintage reports or like what went into this grape. Where did it come from? How was it grown? Was it sprayed with anything? How was it harvested? Who is the winemaker? Where was it transported? Just like the details that a consumer who's running late to a dinner party and just going for a bottle of wine might not care about, but for someone who wants to make an informed choice and informed decision about what they're putting into their body or what they're, more importantly, spending their money on and investing in, because that's, we as consumers, every purchase that we make is an investment. And if we're investing in products that are cutting corners or not doing it to a standard because we don't have the knowledge to operate on to inform ourselves, and I think that's detrimental to the free market dynamics and allowing consumers to make informed choices. So by logging more data and doing it so in such a way that removes chain of custody issues or confirmation bias issues, it really serves to protect the consumer and give them more information to make more educated decisions. And that isn't just in the wine industry. That's at vegetable farms. That's corn, soy, wheat, grain, whatever it may be. I think that we will have more positive outcomes as a society. The more information that we voluntarily allow access to our consumers. And so hopefully that answers both of those questions.
I think it does. And you know what? We're about to wrap up because this is for everyone who's listening today on our call, as well as those that might be listening afterwards to the recording. This is the first of a series that we're going to be doing, Mike and the team, because we think that, again, the Internet of Things, IoT, and the development is really important, just like when blockchain first started. It's all about education, and the technology is changing so fast. And it's really important that, as someone mentioned, the consumers understand, as well as the professionals. And that only happens through events like this and through us reaching out. So, any last minute words, Mike, before we close the Zoom and we wrap up for the night?
Nailed it, Jackie. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Alex and Clark. And thank you so much for sponsoring. Julian, great work. Greg, thank you for all of the questions to the community out there. I really appreciate it. This is great.
Yep, we appreciate everyone. And as I said, for all of the links, they'll be below. And we thank you guys for coming on, and we look forward to seeing you at the next, and send us your questions so we can answer them in the next series. Have a great one. Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Take care.
Thank you.